From the Fathead Studio in Speedway, Indiana, this is The Skinny.
Man, am I still pretty? And he's like, you ain't pretty, but you're going to be all right.
And now I'm just hanging on, looking at the wall, like flying this way. And I'm like, oh man, I got to let go of this thing at some point.
And then there's one that could literally pick you up.
Yeah.
It's
I'm not really sure about that, but yeah.
That's called a helicopter.
Well,
And the last lap was just chaos. I mean, like 4 wide, 5 wide.
It's like whatever, if you land it and send it into the fence, you're probably not gonna get hurt. Bounce and then this insane roll, the car that Keegan was in. I mean, I don't know it's the shape of the Beetle or what, but that thing sent it.
So I was the supercharger specialist on my old man's car with
Specialist?
Yeah, it sounds cooler than crew guy.
Hi, I'm Tony Stewart.
I'm Mario Andretti.
I'm Christy Lee.
I'm Alexander Rossi.
I'm Cruz Pedregon.
I'm Taylor Ferns, and this is The Skinny.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Fatheads Eyewear Studios here in Speedway, Indiana. I'm Ken Stout. That is Rico Elmore sitting right alongside. The track dude's back there. He's fumbling and bumbling and
bumbling.
But he's got it all sorted out now. That is Michael Young, and you are watching The Skinny. We have a lovely guest that's joined us here in the studio today. Her name is Taylor Ferns. She's been behind the wheel of a sprint car, a midget, CRA Lates, ARCA, you name it. She's been duking it out with the boys and making a name for herself all along the way. In fact, I think it was 2015 you were named by Speed Sport News as Driver of the Year, Most Popular Driver of the Year. That's pretty cool award right off the bat.
Yeah, no, thank you. Well, it's great to be here in the Fathead Studio for the first time, so it's nice to meet you, Ken, and always great to see Rico. But yeah,
First person that's ever said that.
Yeah,
It's great
first
to
person
see
that
me.
said, pleasure to be in the Fathead Studios.
Yeah.
I mean,
Or great to meet you.
Yeah, well,
I mean,
I've
I'm
known
not sure
Rico
which
since
one.
I was like 12 years old, so over half my life now. So
is true.
basically like family now. But yeah, that was a really cool accolade to be nominated for in 2015. And shortly after that, I actually took a few years off to go for my education and get my bachelor's and my master's, and I'm finishing up law school now. But it's been really cool to kind of like come back the past few years and kind of like show more of what I'm capable of. And more so my potential. And so, yeah, just like kind of backing that accolade up a little bit more.
So what's different now than was then?
I think for me, obviously, like as you go through different stages of life, like the maturity and having the opportunity to have a different outlook and view different, as I went through and experienced different cultures and kind of like progressed through my education and reflect a lot on like my younger years in motorsports. I think that's kind of like changed my perspective in ways. Like when I came back to racing with even like a greater fire than what I had before.
And getting to pay all the bills, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that is one thing that
How's that's a little bit different, right?
Yeah, no, for sure. It's
It
definitely
was always a family race team, but when it's all laid on you, it's a little bit of a different story, right?
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, it's definitely been a privilege this year to kind of take over the team ownership opportunities and kind of utilize the directorial roles and skills that I learned from the Sam Bernstein law firm when I was there. But definitely there's been some hardships throughout the season already, and like things that have kind of curveballs thrown our way and things that we've had to tackle almost within a matter of hours. And so, it's been unique, and I'm grateful that I can do that because I think it'll help me grow into the person that I'm meant to be. But it's just a matter of like, hopefully it'll get us to the point where we can improve our on-track performance as well.
The old owner's a truck driver for you now, right?
Yeah.
Your dad?
Yeah, that's what he claims the only thing he wants to do. Truck driver, and he sells merchandise out of the merchandise trailer. Yeah.
Oh, I got to come to one of the events so I could give him a hard time about it.
You think he's skimming a little bit off the top?
He could be checking the drawer and everything after
just
it's
getting
over.
back what he put in, that's all.
Yeah. No, it's funny whenever there's a long line, he'll tell people, be patient, this is my first time doing this, or whatever.
No.
So people will give him a hard time. But
Good.
That's
good.
yeah. All in
Nobody
good fun.
deserves that better. That's good.
Good to have somebody with personality in there having fun with them anyway. So
Oh, yeah.
that stuff works too. If somebody, if you communicate to somebody that's standing 7 or 8 deep, and you say, just give me a minute, my first day, guess what? I'd be ready to walk out, and I'd say, oh, all right, man, I'll hang out,
Yeah,
give the guy
I'll
a break,
wait.
you know?
I'll wait on him.
Yeah, no, for sure. And then he'll tell people will ask him like, "Oh, are you Taylor's dad?" And then he's like, "Yeah, I'm not really good with technology or whatever," and go on his little spiel.
Use
That's
one of
his-
those
that's
old
it.
registers, you hit the
Right.
button.
Yeah.
You know?
That's his sales pitch. That's what you ought to put in there.
Yeah.
One of the old ones that you have to crank the handle and, ring it up.
It's the only position she'd let me be part of here on the team, so I'm trying not to screw it up.
Yeah.
He was telling me that. He was like, I'm the truck driver. And like he was going all into it. I go, okay, whatever. Clearly, he can handle a little bit of that, but he's still dad, and that's good.
Yeah. No, and he and I will kind of go back and forth. Or I'll ask him his opinion or outlook on certain things, and then sometimes when it's not going the way that he would do it, because it's the way that I chose to do it, he'll start to obviously critique, and I'll just say to him, "I don't tell you how to run your business." Like, so it's all in good fun, and obviously it's a very family oriented environment for us. Each person in my family has a role. My mom is the chef. My sister will videotape or push me on the quad or whatever, and my brother kind of just supervises. But we need to find a job for him.
That's good. He could work the merch trailer with your dad.
Yeah.
That would be good. Those two would probably kill each other in there.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Jimmy definitely will. We're coming up with a role for him, so stay tuned for that.
That's good.
Great stuff for sure. We are off and running here with Taylor Ferns. Stay with us. We'll be right back with more here on The Skinny.
Obviously, complete 180 from what I do because I'm obsessed with open wheel racing. And so, yeah, we always grew up, we celebrated the Daytona 500s like it was a Super Bowl type of thing.
The Skinny is brought to you by Fatheads Eyewear. Fatheads Eyewear, hardcore since '04. And American Coach, innovation is our life force.
Welcome back to The Skinny. We're here in Speedway, Indiana. We have Taylor Ferns, who's joined us here in the studio. Great to have her as well. A longtime competitor here. Did take a little hiatus to go to school and take care of that, which I find a little ironic. I believe you've got a bachelor in business, finance, and economics, and you came back to racing. Mm-hmm. You're clearly a smart girl, but none of those economics work out in racing.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, no. And I've quickly learned that as well, but I obviously already knew that going into it, but I'm just following my passion. And, when I went through, throughout school, through my bachelor's degree, master's degree, law school, everyone always says, and it could be a cliche, but they say if, you're doing your passion or following what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. And so for me, I love racing. And so, I went through and I did the right thing, quote unquote, got my degrees, worked at a law firm, had a normal 9-to-5 job. And so coming back and hopefully I can make a career out of it even when I'm done with the driving standpoint. So I plan to be a lifer in motorsports.
The interesting thing is, I don't think I've ever asked you what got you into it.
So,
where did you start? Maybe I guess we should start there first.
Yeah. So I started racing when I was 6 years old in quarter midgets. But basically I grew up in a racing family. And I actually got into racing basically because of my mom. So her two brothers.
See, I wouldn't
completely different again,
Yeah.
right? That's what we love about this show.
Yeah. So her two brothers, so my uncles, used to race late models and stock cars, which obviously complete 180 from what I do because I'm obsessed with open wheel racing. And so, yeah, we always grew up, we celebrated the Daytona 500s like it was a Super Bowl type of thing. And so I always knew at a young age that I was going to do something in racing. I just never knew what that would look like. And then one day when I was 6, we drove up to Lansing, Michigan, and I sat in a quarter midget and fell in love. So here we are 21 years on.
Who took you?
My dad. Well, we actually made it it was a family trip. So
Yeah, so I'm with Rico. So your dad sent you there, but where were you going? How did that come about? Why was there a quarter midget there for you to even sit in?
So my dad and my uncle Donnie, who was one of the racers, they had done some research based on a neighbor of ours that had a quarter midget. So they saw it in their driveway one day and they did some research or whatnot. And then they saw that there was one for sale in Lansing, which is an hour and a half from my home base. And so that's kind of where we went.
And
so,
you were how old at the time?
I was 6.
You were 6 years old,
Yeah.
so you had already relayed to your father how badly you wanted to drive a race car at that point?
You know, I kept it to myself. I didn't even know if I was going to be able to drive a race car. I mean, there wasn't a lot of visible females in motorsports. So it was like, is that even a thing for me? Really? I wasn't sure if I'd be like more of like work on the bit. Like, I mean, I was a young kid, so I just didn't
I
even
guess
know.
where I'm trying to go is, how did they know, not to get you a Barbie doll?
Yeah.
I mean, who was it that said?
That's what Ken got. That's why he's asking about the Barbie doll.
I got the Ken and I got both. Yeah, I got the pair.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think it's super cool that they clearly saw something, or maybe they just wanted to see if his daughter could drive a race car. I don't know. That's what I was trying to get out.
Oh yeah, no. So my sister and I were 2 of 3 kids. My brother's the youngest. So I always kind of tell people when we were growing up, my dad kind of at first started raising my sister and I like we were his little boys. So
Now we're back somewhere.
we had the quads, we had the snowmobiles, we had the dirt bikes. So like you name it, anything outdoors or like had an engine, like we were on it. And so it was just, I feel like a natural step to get into a race car. And we always played around more so with race cars than Barbie dolls or Bratz
Probably loved
dolls.
going to the races, watching your uncle. Probably
Yeah.
your dad probably saw some passion in you that
Yeah.
that you were into it and wanted to check it out. So
Yeah.
all right, so you go quarter midget racing, and then what?
Yeah, so in the midst of that, we started quarter midget racing. And then I always tell people, I feel like my parents, especially my dad, recognized that racing was my absolute passion, because I remember telling people, Taylor's like obsessed with racing, but like that is her passion.
I remember that.
And I didn't even know like what that even meant when I was like 11, 12 or whatnot. And I'm like, yeah, I guess. Yeah, I mean, I obviously knew I loved racing.
My dad's talking about this, and
Yeah.
that sounds good. I mean, I think I'm
Do you
into
think
it.
what
Yeah.
he saw came in the form of true just loving to drive the car, or was it more from the competitive side? Like, I see her, she's really competitive.
I think for me, it's a culmination of everything. Like, I love the speed. I love the competition. And also for me, like the competition part of it, like who you race around obviously makes you better as a race car driver. And also I feel like as an individual. So like, that's like the major competitive standpoint for me. But also a lot of the off-track stuff and the lifestyle that comes with it and the people that you work with. I mean, it's really no different than your day job, like the people, why do you love your job? A lot of it comes back to the people that you're surrounded by. And so I feel like with racing, it's almost the same thing. I mean, yeah, you'll get some bad apples in there, here and there, but it makes it all like part of
We
the
got 3 here,
experience.
but go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. So I love everything about it. The progression, like from when I started at racing midgets at such a young age until now, the more females that are getting involved in it, but also getting the right opportunities to race like the best equipment.
Welcome back to The Skinny. You're looking at the first podium finisher by a female in a USAC Silver Crown history. She did it 1 year ago. That is Taylor Ferns. Had a great run out there and then backed it up again, a third-place finish. So a couple of podium finishes there in the Silver Crown Series, which is as tough as they come. And I really take a look at the race cars as well. I know you have a lot of time in sprint cars, but driving those bigger cars that are heavier cars for 100 laps will wear you out. I mean, you get tired. The term is falling out of the seat.
Yeah.
As you well know, your head gets tired, your necks get tired. Your arms, I know they have power steering, but still 100 laps in those things is no joke.
Yeah, no, but honestly, that's what I love about Silver Crown racing. It makes it so unique. I kind of describe it as a bigger, like fatter sprint car, which like sprint cars have my heart and soul. I'm obsessed with them. But I think the Silver Crown racing brings a different element, like more races of attrition, like as you mentioned, the 100 laps. Sometimes we ran 150 at the Hoosier 100 this past year at IRP. But there's so many more things that go into that, so many different variables and things of that nature, like as the fuel load wears off and how that affects the car handling. And then a lot of times it's just making it to the end of the race, right? Because some people will start dropping like flies. And so, but the nature of the competition, especially the past 2 years, has just like evolved and progressed so much. So I think it's definitely something to be proud of, like even to make it on podium or even a top 5 sometimes with the level of competition.
so other female competitors with you, who's out there running? Doesn't Pierce have Kaylee Bryson, and she running his stuff?
Yeah, no. So that's been cool. Kaylee's been running the Silver Crown stuff. I know this is her first full season, and she ran a few races last year. So that's really cool because when I first started Silver Crown racing when I was 16, there were no females at all.
Right.
And even before me, there was like very few females that even had more than one start. So it's kind of cool to see like over time. I mean, even when I even came back from my break, a lot of times I'd be the only girl. So I think it's cool, you know, to have Kaylee and racing with us and on the roster this year
her
too.
and Taylor Reimer's making history, both making the A main there at the Chili Bowl, and I mean, it does seem like there's been a swell here the past few years that have. I'm sorry, Jade Avedisian, by the way, Kaylee, not Taylor Reimer, but Taylor also doing a great job in the Extreme Midget Series. But it seems like there's a swell of women now, females now, that are rising to the top. There's been a lot in the midget area that have been honing their teeth and now starting to show some real results. I mean, they've been people like Keith Coons, you know, have had a couple of really talented females inside of the car. So they get to drive a good car with a good team, and they learn what it's like to be out front and learn how to win, and now it's paying dividends.
Yeah, no, and I think it's really cool to see, obviously, like, the progression, like, from when I started at racing midgets at such a young age until now, the more females that are getting involved in it, but also getting the right opportunities to race, like, the best equipment. Because, you know, it's, like, so easy. If you could put a girl in any type of car, right, if they want to race and do it, but then sometimes they'll get that bad stigma if it's not the best of equipment and they can't compete and run up front. It's like, oh, it comes back to she sucks. And so it's cool if you put them into like the best equipment on the racetrack to let them show what they can do. And so like I think that's great, like with what Keith Coons is doing and like the female drivers that have come through his roster there. With right now he has Reimer and Jade, who's obviously doing tremendous. And so I think that it all comes back to just a numbers game, right? And that's something that we talk about a lot with Women in Motorsports North America, which is a group and organization that I'm heavily involved in. So looking forward to the future and the growth of females in the industry.
Yeah, we want to touch on that for sure. And I agree with you, by the way. I was actually going to bring it up, but you just said it. It is a numbers game. I think if you take a look at how many guys over the course of time that have gotten into racing, the amount of them that succeed and make it, you know, the really high-level drivers, it's a very small number. But we've just hammered the industry with males. And the females are coming in now, but still, if you take a look at the numbers as a whole, it's still such a small percentage. So to have one female rise up and compete with the best is really a needle in a haystack.
Yeah, no, and it's almost kind of like something that I've kind of talked about privately, almost like the funnel effect. Because, I mean, it happened to me when I turned 19. It was like, okay, didn't have the funding to, like, go on and continue on to do ARCA or stock car, which at the time that was the path I wanted to go on. And so I went to go for my education instead. And so you kind of see that fall off rate around a certain age, around like 19 to 20, where like the females, I mean, not just females, but the males do too, who don't have the funding to go to school, and then they may or may not come back. And so it's all about opportunity and making sure that you can keep the ones, specifically the females regarding this conversation, within the industry to allow them to grow and show their skill set. And if they don't decide to drive anymore, they could be an engineer or be a mechanic or work on the business side. So
she's an ambassador with the Women in Motorsports for North America. We'll touch on that when we come back.
It was like a light bulb went off in my head. I was like, oh, wait, I could be a team owner. Or meeting Lori Eberhardt, like, oh, I could be an attorney in motorsport.
Welcome back to the Skinny. Ken Stout here. Rico Elmore sitting alongside, and the track dude back there running the controls. We have Taylor Ferns, who's joined us here in the studio, and it's great to get the perspective from a female, of course, that has been scrapping her way up into the industry all along the way. Took a little bit of time off to take care of her education. Very smart move there, and now back in it, chasing her passion, chasing her dream. Talk to us about the Women in Motorsports in North America. I know you're ambassador for them, but what is that organization all about?
Yeah, so it's a group of professionals within the motorsports community from wide-ranging roles, like whether from a team owner, engineers, mechanics, drivers like myself and Lynn St. James. And really what it is to help facilitate and create opportunities for other females in motorsports to kind of keep them within the industry. So whether that's finding placement for them, like as a job, like for a job standpoint, or creating mentorship opportunities or giving them mentorship opportunities. And every year we hold a big summit. It's normally around October, November is like our big fundraiser. And this is only the second year of its establishment too. So they're kind of just getting the ball rolling in ways.
So if somebody wants to donate to that fundraiser, how do they do that?
Yeah, so you can just go to womeninmotorsportsna.com and you can donate. There's a link on the website that you could donate to the organization directly through there. Or our summit that we have this year in Phoenix is in November. And I think it's honestly one of the best networking events that I go to throughout the year. And so that's a big fundraiser for the community as well.
So my question is this, how long have you been involved in it?
So I've been involved since inception, so the past 2.5 years.
Okay, so it's only 2.5 years old.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
that's cool. So let me ask you this: these other great female athletes that are racing out there, are they involved? Is Kaylee? I mean, are any of the other females involved at this point?
There are other drivers that like I interact with that are involved in the group, whether it's from late models or open wheel. But from my knowledge right now, I don't think Kaylee, Taylor Reimer, or Jade are specifically involved. And so
They got to get involved.
Yeah, no, they have to. I was actually telling them about it at the Car IQ event, like a month or so ago, at the USEC headquarters, because I think I've received a lot of my opportunities that I have like through the organization and just through basic networking, right? And so just trying to pass it on and kind of get the word out about it too, because some people don't really know about it. So I think that's a big thing as well.
So it happens once a year, the fundraiser, or it goes, the organization obviously is chasing it all year long, but do they have one big event?
Yeah, so the summit, the Women with Drive Summit, they label it, happens once a year. This is the third year that they're doing it, and it's kind of a traveling summit. So last year we had it at the Charlotte Motor Speedway, and then this year it's going to be at Phoenix Raceway in Phoenix, Arizona. So yeah, it's a really great event. I think last year we had over 250 professionals within the industry over a 2-day event. And then this year I think they're expecting 500 plus.
And that's like you said, team owners. I mean, more or less. I mean, but it's not just an all girls club, right? There's some guys involved that are mentor, help out as well. And and I was tell me again her name, your director.
Cindy Sisson.
Yeah. What an amazing person. Gift of gab, which you got to have for that position. About had my feet nailed to the floor and let me go, which was okay because I enjoyed the conversation. And of course, Lynn St. James has been a friend a long time. And, she's always been pushing for us to get involved in some way or another. And so it's really awesome to. I knew that you were involved to some extent, so it's pretty cool. So I really like it.
That's a massive growth, 100% growth. You just said 250, and they're expecting 500, near 500. That's amazing.
Yeah. I'm just estimating, but I know like based on the reception that we had for the event last year, and we were at capacity. And then so we obviously moving to Phoenix this year, we were able to get a larger venue. And so that's going to allow us to have more attendees as well. So
when you first brought it up, I'm thinking it'd be a perfect fit for, SEMA or PRI, but if they're getting those kind of numbers, maybe it's better to stay away where there's not so many other distractions.
Yeah, no, I think it's great for them to kind of have just like an individualized event, and everyone kind of there for that specific reason. And then throughout the 2 days, like they hold different seminars and they have different panels regarding different topics, not just on the females in motorsports either, the aspect as well, but kind of showing that there are other opportunities, like
The
for
guys
me,
to watch out for on the track.
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
No, like, yeah, that maybe, but also that the other opportunities than just from like a driver's standpoint. So like for me, when I was younger, I always thought, if I can't drive, like, what am I going to do? And then after I was introduced to Beth Prada, like it was like a light bulb went off in my head. I was like, oh wait, I could be a team owner. Or meeting Lori Eberhardt, like, oh, I could be an attorney in motorsports and draft contracts. And so it's not just about, if you don't do you can't drive forever. So there's more within motorsports.
Tell John Force that.
Yeah. As much as I would like to race until I'm 80. No, but I think it's just about showing that there's other opportunities, but then also having like our male allies that we have involved in the group as well, I think has been really great.
Well, if you're a weapon in a car, you're a weapon.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you're a
There's
female
no
or a
shortage
male.
of men that are weapons. in
Clearly
cars.
weapons.
The Skinny is brought to you by American Coach. American Coach, innovation is our life force. And Fatheads Eyewear. Fatheads Eyewear, hardcore since '04.
Welcome back to the Fatheads Eyewear Studios here in Speedway, Indiana. We have Taylor Ferns on the show here, and we've been talking about women in motorsports, or at least through the last segment, and I want to follow up on that a little bit more because it's not just drivers. As you just mentioned, there's a lot of other roles inside of this industry, and I think a lot of times people do hone down, they want to be the quarterback of the team, if you will, the driver. But I know that all the internships that are making their way in now, like, for example, Chip Ganassi Racing is certainly leading the charge in IndyCar with all of the women that are on that team. And I remember just recently we had, I think Dixon had a really strong weekend. Maybe it was at Mid-Ohio last year. And a female walked by and she said, now all you need is some engineers on the team, a female engineer on the team. I said, have one. And I think they actually have more than one, to be honest with you. And certainly Honda, the engines that they use, they have females that are engineers on that team. They are littered throughout the entire team at this point. Extremely intelligent women that have decided to do the same as their male counterparts, come in and play with race cars, and they're very, very good at what they do.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, it's definitely cool to see. I had the opportunity to go to the Indy GP this past weekend, and so it was cool kind of walking through the paddock area and seeing on each team, I felt like there was at least one female like working within the pit area.
And I don't think they're females that are there because they're females. I think that they are extremely intelligent.
Yeah,
they're like
I agree with you.
unbelievably
Yeah.
smart. So
I agree
it's
with
so
you.
stereotypical. It's like, oh, they got a job because it's
Well,
a
they
blah,
get
blah, blah.
pointed out as a female in a male-dominated
Right.
industry, but that scale is changing. I agree with you 100%. They don't look at their crew members or teammates as, oh, he's a male, I'm a female. At least I don't think they do.
Yeah,
I think they come in as a crew member, as a teammate. Hey, I'm bringing something to the table too. And I will tell you that very quickly. I promise you, from the male side of it, because I've stood there and watched these ladies, I literally say, I'm really glad she's on the team.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
she's
think
super cool.
they're more methodical. I think they're more attention to detail now. That's not taking anything away from the champions that have done the jobs these females are doing.
Well,
now,
I think
but
they bring skills
it's a
that
total
men
different-
don't bring.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I
Total
agree with that
different
100%.
Yeah.
But I think one of the interesting things is a lot of times now the women that are doing it are saying, I don't want to be looked at as a woman in motorsports. I just want to be looked at as a great engineer.
Right.
And that's, we've started to transition to that, thankfully, at least in the motorsports industry.
Yeah, and I think like it's really no different from like the engineering standpoint. Like I can empathize with that because from the driver's standpoint, ever since I was a young girl in racing and coming up through the ranks, and I'd be the only girl with throughout certain divisions as I came up through the ranks. And I never really thought of myself as like the girl in motor or the female in motorsports. Like to me, I was just like one of the guys, like I was just a driver, even though like maybe other people perceived me differently. But I feel like once I got onto the track and I was able to show them that like I was a competitor, and I feel like a fierce competitor, I think maybe like their perspective evolved. But I'm not that one with that perspective, because I always just thought I was the same as everybody else.
Well, if you're a weapon in a car, you're a weapon.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you're a
There's
female
no
or
shortage
a
of men that are
Yeah.
weapons. in
clearly
cars.
weapons. So it's no problem.
Yeah, I think for a long time, going back a number of years ago, it was a physical thing. The men were stronger, but you had to be stronger to drive those cars back in the day. But with the technology that's come its way now it's hand-eye coordination, and there's no sport on the planet where women don't excel and certainly have amazing hand-eye coordination and what they're able to do. So I think the playing field has come back to really close to level. We just need to, like you say, really work through the numbers until we find that Kyle Larson of women, but they're coming.
Yeah, no, I think there's definitely for sure like an army of females in the younger ranks, like in quarter midgets. I went to a quarter midget race not too long ago, and there was, I would say just less than 50% of the group was females, which I thought was amazing, like has progressed far more than when I was that age. And then when I went to a micro sprint race recently, it was like almost the same thing. And I was just really amazed. I turned to my crew chief and I was like, oh my gosh, look at all the girls that are here. Like that, it was really cool. And a handful of them won their races. And so I think that's what's going to change the game as like time goes on. But also it's still important to like have the females that are at age and at capacity now to give them those opportunities to show that younger generation that they can go on, so they don't kind of, I guess, encounter the glass ceiling, if you will. Yeah, actually, I've had some people come up to me at the racetrack and start talking to me about dog bites.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Skinny. We have Taylor Ferns in the studio with us here, Indiana resident, and has worked her way through some of the lower ranks, loves open wheel racing in terms of midgets, sprint cars, and, of course, Silver Crown, where she's enjoyed some success here as of late. First female to start on the front row of the USAC Silver Crown Series as well. That's super cool. So talk to me about current day racing. You have wins in sprint cars, you have wins in midgets, you have wins, or not wins in Silver Crown, but you want one.
Yeah.
Been right there close, knocking on the door.
Yeah.
So where are you at right now?
So right now, I'd say we're almost like just past halfway throughout the season. I've been racing my USAC Silver Crown car this year and my sprint car. And so, we've had to overcome some hurdles this year. We had some mechanical, some engine failures that have kind of built one on top of the other. And so it's just kind of been overcoming that. We've showed that we've had speed. We've showed that we could run up front and pass a lot of cars, but it's just getting there. And so putting all the pieces to the puzzle together, if you will. So we still have some races left, and I think hopefully I have some high hopes for some of the races upcoming to show what we can do and hopefully overcome some of those little bouts that we've had.
Talk to me about the sponsors. I see you're wearing a Mobil 1 fleece here. Who all's involved with the team?
Yeah, so a big sponsor of mine, which I'm super grateful for, because I probably would not have been able to get through the season without them. Bradford Allen, they came on this season, and
what's Bradford Allen do?
Bradford Allen, they are involved in commercial property real estate and development, based out of the Chicago area, but they have property all throughout the United States. So heavily involved in that arena, which is also an interest of mine too, with kind of like my business background as well. So it's kind of cool when I talk to them about racing that they're not so familiar with it. And so I'll relay it in business terms. So then it's kind of a way for them to catch on. So really grateful for the Bradford Allen Group and Mobil 1. I'm honored to wear their logo on my car this year. 1-800-CALL-SAM, the Sam Bernstein Law Firm, which is my employer for the past 4.5 years. So really grateful for the Bernstein family. along with a slew of other like product sponsors and Fatheads Eyewear, Simpson Race Products, 8-Track Entertainment. The list goes on and on. So, it takes a village, and it truly does to get through a race season. So I'm really grateful for them.
Yeah, I read that where you were working for the Bernstein law firm as an operating manager. Is that correct?
Yeah, operations manager, operations director. Yeah.
So is that kind of like, well, it wasn't an internship because you were getting paid, but you're still going to school for your law degree, correct?
Yeah. I actually start school up. That reminds me in a couple weeks.
Summer's over.
Yeah, summer's over. It's kind of bittersweet, but it's my last year. So yeah, I'm still in school right now, ready to get it over with. But then I know that when I'm done, I got to study for the bar. So I have to plan that accordingly.
So I saw that they were one of the sponsors, or maybe even a primary there for a while, and I thought that was super cool that they got involved with your passion aside from your job or your career.
Yeah, no, it was actually not kind of random how it got brought up because they knew about my racing background. Actually, when I first sat down to interview with them, that was the first thing they asked me about. Like, tell me about this racing. Like, what is this? And we ended up talking about racing for the entire interview. And so it kind of just intrigued their interest. And after 2.5 years of me being there, I'd brought it up like, I feel like the target market for motorsports kind of fits that of personal injury law. And I had like a lot of like insider information, right? So I kind of knew.
Take advantage of an opportunity.
Yeah. And so, they
ambulance chaser, race car, whatever, same deal.
And so, yeah, they liked it. And I felt like they loved me as an employee. And so they wanted to support me in whatever it was I did. And we actually did a racing commercial. Which was cool. I don't know if anyone saw it in the Metro Detroit or Michigan area.
But wasn't it on Flow? Did it ever run on Flow? I saw it somewhere, maybe on your Facebook. Or something.
Probably on social media. I don't think Flow ran it. Yeah, I don't think Flow ran it, but that would have been cool if they did. But shot a commercial, and I'm super grateful for them and the relationship that I have with them, and so. Yeah, it's been quite the journey.
Have you been able to have they acquired any business from the motorsports industry?
Yeah, no, it's actually interesting. A lot of times it may not even be related to personal injury or medical malpractice law, which is what my firm does. But actually I've had some people come up to me at the racetrack and start talking to me about dog bites, which is like what our firm handles. And so I'll tell them who to call and whatnot. And so it's kind of funny. But then I also have people reach out to me about other legal issues. And so it's kind of like maybe I'll just start up a consulting firm here when I pass the bar, just for our motorsports friends.
Where are you wanting to practice? Here, there? Where are you thinking?
So I'm going to take the Michigan bar, which is they just moved to the uniform bar exam, which means I can practice in like 30 different states. So I could practice in Indiana, I could practice in North Carolina if I meet the certain credentials. So I'm going to take the Michigan bar, but I'll probably end up practicing more so in Indiana. And then I would like to take the Florida bar as well too.
So what I'm hearing is she's not ruling out Mooresville. I can practice in North Carolina.
She's talking about Florida. Gee, weather's horrible there.
Right, yeah, they don't do much racing down there either.
They don't have any personal injury stuff going on down there ever.
No.
She has a very bright career. Of course, we'll talk more about that when we come back.
Want to get the skinny on other guests and different types of motorsports? Check out our YouTube page and get the skinny. The Skinny is brought to you by Fatheads Eyewear. Fatheads Eyewear, hardcore since '04. And American Coach. American Coach, innovation is our life force.
Welcome back to The Skinny. We've had Taylor Ferns on the show with us here today in the studio here in Speedway, Indiana. It's been quite a pleasure to have her on the show. Very diverse, both as a driver, team owner now, and obviously chasing her law degree. We just touched on that before. So talk to me about the future. Obviously, you're looking forward to taking the bar and get that behind you so you can start practicing. But once that's done, how do you attack both of these passions?
Yeah, so that's a really interesting question. So first off, I'll start off by saying that I want to try to drive and race for as long as I can, or as long as I am able with like the sponsorship and the funding that I have. So we'll kind of see where that goes and where that takes me, because I do not think I'm not done racing yet. But with that, obviously, I have some other things on my scorecard as well, with finishing my law degree and taking the bar. So I think once I get to that point, there's probably going to be some crosshairs that need to be reviewed. But, you know, I plan to make a lifelong career in racing, whether that's working in as a motorsports attorney or being a team owner or driving for as long as I can. So I don't like to say we'll see what happens, but it's almost as a way of we'll see what happens and kind of take advantage of the opportunities that come my way now. And, you know, I kind of have a lot of things in my back pocket to like kind of work on and to help kind of establish my path in this industry. And so we'll see where it goes.
You know, it's interesting. I heard you say I would, you know, with your law degree, to write contracts for drivers. And that's a unique aspect or an angle to look at things that you've obviously raced, so you know that angle or aspect of it. But to be able to write a contract, that's a unique skill that I don't think a lot of people will even think about achieving.
Yeah, so like the agency perspective has been something that I've thought about even when I took the bar. Because when I had attorneys for when I was doing the ARCA stuff, they would review my contracts and things of that nature. I'd always think, oh, maybe I can do what Alan Miller did, because that was my motorsports attorney when I was kind of going through the ranks. And so now I've had the opportunity to connect with Lori Eberhardt, who is another motorsports attorney based out of Charlotte, North Carolina. And so kind of see a little bit of like how Lori does her work and her interactions with people within the industry as well. And so that's definitely, obviously that's my passion, racing. And so, yeah, I think maybe that's where my two worlds collide.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's absolutely awesome. And you were talking about ARCA, and I'll roll back to it real quick. So how old were you when you tested ARCA at Daytona?
I was 17.
17.
Yeah.
And how
5 days past 17.
And who were you testing with?
Venturinis.
And the other couple of the other drivers that were also in the same situation, same age, maybe?
Yeah. So that year there was a few 17-year-olds. It was Chase Elliott and Eric Jones, who Eric was actually a teammate of mine.
Never heard of either one of those guys.
Chase,
Yeah.
that last name sounds familiar.
Yeah. Well, that was also the year, like for the intermediate tracks, they made an exception to allow the 17-year-olds. I was telling you guys this earlier, to race at like Pocono in Kentucky. And so that was cool because I was one of those 3 17-year-olds. So, yeah.
I think Kentucky is more dangerous than Daytona. You know, it's a
beautiful track,
intermediate track, but
yeah.
it is a hammer down joint.
Yeah, one
you know
of
what I
those
mean?
high
It's
banks.
fast.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was like my first time really kind of obviously on a track of that size and that nature, and then in a stock car. And actually, funny story about that if we have some time. So Kentucky, we were supposed to race on a Friday night. It got rained out, so we raced it Saturday morning. Well, the 4 Crown at Eldora was that night, and I was supposed to Saturday night. So I raced ARCA, the 250 lap race there. We left. They literally pulled me out of the car.
How did you do?
I think I finished 10th or 11th. So not too bad, but could have been better. I mean, I was 17, so I was just kind of like getting
Top
used
10
to
in
that
ARCA,
scene.
solid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then we headed north and we went to Eldora, and I raced the midget and the Silver Crown. And then in the Silver Crown car, I ended up finishing 4th. And then at that time, that was the highest finish for a female in Silver Crown history. Still is for a dirt race, but yeah, I was only
How about
17.
you go out and win
Were you-
this weekend
were you
and just
tired?
get that over
Yeah.
with?
No, and that's funny. Billy Venturini, I think, was texting me after and was like, "Oh, like how tired are you? Whatever." I was like, "I could do another 3-peat." Like,
I
let's
love
go.
it. That is absolutely awesome.
It's really good stuff. Going back to what Rico just said, for example, Kentucky to Daytona. So Daytona is a flat-out track. You just put your 4/8 foot down and let her wail. But if you get on one of those intermediate high bank tracks where you've got to breathe the throttle, it becomes a sketchier game.
Yeah, no, that's why it was like interesting for me. Like when I went to Pocono or Kentucky, like I kind of, I felt like personally, I mean, I'm my hardest critic. I felt like I struggled with that a little bit. But also at the same point in time, like I was 17 years old. I was like just getting my feet wet. And that was my first time on a track of that size. And so, you know, I think doing that though at such a young age, like helped me when we went Silver Crown racing at Gateway last year, and like even doing the miles and the USAC Silver Crown car. And so, you know, like life comes full circle and everything happens for a reason. So there's a reason why that happened to me then at a young age to like help me do what I'm doing now, you know? So it's been interesting.
That's awesome. So in closing here, one more time, give us that website for the Women in Motorsports if they want to make a donation or people to get involved.
Yeah, so Women in Motorsports North America, their website is womeninmotorsportsna.com. And so they can check out the website, learn about what the community is about and how they want to further and elevate females in motorsports. But also we have our summit in November, which I think is a really, really great event. So yeah, be sure to check it out.
Yeah, for sure. Check that out, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a real pleasure to have you on the show. By the way, follow the USAC Silver Crown Series and keep your eyes on her, and hoping to make history one more time. We'll see if you can pick up a win. That would be awesome.
Yeah, I'm ready. I feel like way overdue.
It's right there, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm ready. Let's go.
Best of luck. Thanks for coming in here. And now, ladies and gentlemen,
Thank
you know
you.
the skinny, or at least a little bit of it, on Taylor Ferns.